Hello everyone, it's Danzen here. We are currently on day 17 in 100 days of code challenge in free code camp. Right now is add logic to C Sharp console application. This is part 3 of the foundational C Sharp of Microsoft. And we are on the second module right now is about the control variable scope and logic using the code blocks in C Sharp. So this is pretty basics. If you want to furthermore to advance your logic and algorithm, you may want to learn about this first. After that, I think you can learn something like algorithm. There are many courses online for algorithm, just like Princeton, algorithm part 1, where you can actually enroll this for free in the Coursera. And there is also the second part of this Princeton. This from the Princeton University. The instructor is should be one, yeah. Yeah, Robert Sedgwick. Also, he got a book of algorithm where you can just buy it on Amazon. I think this is the best time to start understanding what is the variable scope and logic in this course. So, okay, let's just get started. So here, selection and iteration statement use code blocks to group together the code lines that should be executed. Yeah, and it's selection, just like if, else, and else. And the iteration statements, just like we haven't learned it actually. But let me tell you, there are various of iteration statements, just like while, do while, and then repeat. I'm not sure if repeat is available in C Sharp. Wait, is it does? Repeat in C Sharp. Iteration statements in C Sharp. Like there are plenty of it. Iteration statement here you can see, but we just learned about for each in the part 2. I guess we haven't learned about for and while and do. I don't know if there is more than this. All right, there seems only 4, but that's fine. All right. Use code block. Code blocks means inside of the curly braces. Inside of the curly braces means a code blocks, and code blocks is just a single unit of statements. But it can be multiple lines of code within the curly braces. That's called a code block. Yeah, group together the code lines that should be executed, skip, or iterated over. Skip. I think if skip is using continue or break, I don't know. But that's not the only purpose for code blocks. Code blocks can also be used to control or limit variable accessibility. Yes, to access. Variable scope refers to the portion of an application where a variable is accessible. Understanding how code block affects variable scope is an important part of computer programming. Suppose you are working on large application that use nested iteration and then selection statements to process array data. So basically, we are working on array data with iteration and selection statement, just like if, else, and else. and then some iteration that we have already learned, just like for each, but probably in this unit, in this module, we're gonna learn about the for, do, and while. I think that will be learned in the next module here. Yes, not sweet case, but here, using for, and then do, while, and while. There you go. And then we will develop do, while, and for in the guided project and the challenge project. So yeah. So your application use variable to help accomplish common text throughout the application. Some variables serve as some purpose in different portion of the application. Okay, so basically my application use variable to help accomplish common tasks. Yes, of course, almost every program, almost every application is often use these variables. But actually, the question is where to put the actual variables. Is it inside of the code blocks or outside of the code blocks? Does putting the variables, that's initializing the variables inside of the code block can be accessed from the outside of the code block? That's my question. And then my second question is, can we actually delete the curly braces inside of the if statements? If it yes, then hopefully it can make the code is more in readability. It will be much more efficient. That's my second question. Okay, another here. Some variables serve as the same purpose in different portion of the application. You have made some attempt to reuse the variable names. We can reuse. Okay, as your application grow, you start seeing unexpected result of our calculation and errors that report variable that is uninitialized or doesn't exist. Yeah. Basically, we want to attempt any unexpected result for calculation and errors. Just trial and error. Like if we put variable inside of the code block, can it be accessed from the outside? If it yes, then I don't think it will be yes. It will be no, because it's basically just like local scope, where local scope cannot be accessed from outside, but outside scope, which is global scope, can be accessed from inside. Alright, you need to improve the approach you're using to declare and access variable, and you need to improve your understanding of variable scope. We're gonna be diving deep down about the scoping of the code block variable scope, right? And of course, the instruction of the compiler will go step by step from up to down. Like the first line will be executed first before the second line, and the second line will be executed first with the compiler before executing the third line. That's the step-by-step of how the compiler works in C#, but I think in most programming language will work the same way like C#, where the upper one should be executed first before the bottom one. By the end of this module, you will be able to use code block with more confidence, understanding how they impact visibility and accessibility of your code. Wait. I haven't read this. In this module, you will declare variable for use inside and outside of the boundaries of code block. You will remove code blocks in certain situations to make code more readable. You'll learn how code block affect the accessibility and visibility of your variables. Accessibility means like my question. In this module, you will understand the impact of declaring and initializing variable inside and outside of code block. So yeah, until now I thought that putting variable inside of the code block can be accessed from outside, but actually after I read some article about this, like probably yesterday, I found out that putting variable inside of the code block cannot be accessed from the outside. Just because that's how the variable scope work. And then how about this? Improve the readability code block in if statements. So we can actually improve the if statement readability by probably this one, removing, where's remove code block, yeah. It means remove the curly braces, and I guess remove the white space there. So here is the prerequisites before you begin to pursue this module 2 of the part 3 of the foundational C# with Microsoft. Here you have to understand how to declare an initial variable. Is easy. You can just look at or just Google it. It's pretty straightforward. And then if else, yeah, selection statement structure, experience with for each iteration. This is a little bit, yeah, this is one is considered as iteration statement, but we got 3 more after this in the next video, hopefully. Experiencing calling methods of classes in the .NET class library. I think I have learned like almost 10 methods of classes in the .NET class library. There are plenty of them where you can just open in the documentation. It has official documentation in C#. It's basically like holy book of the C# programmer. So let's continue here. Here, exercise, code blocks and variable scope. We will start with this. Code block is one or more C# statement that define an execution path. All right. This is one is execution path. What is this means? Execution path. Probably just like the execution path will goes from up to down. That's how the compiler works. The statement outside of the code block affect when, if, and when. All right, if and how often that block of code is executed at runtime. The boundaries of code block are typically defined by squiggly braces. Here, the curly braces. In addition to their effect on execution path, code block can also affect the scope of your variables. The code sample that you examine during the exercise will help you understand the relationship between code blocks and a variable scope. A code block can also, alright. Here, I think we got so many samples of the code block, how it can work. Also the relationship between code blocks and variable scope. Here, what I want, here will be the keyword relationship. Also, can we access the variable like on the same level but from other code block? For example, I declare an integer in the methods called hello world. but I want to make another method which call let's say math is easy. If I want to access the integer inside of the hello world, can it be accessed from the other code block on the same level, which is called math is easy? Can I call? Can I? Can I access the hello world method that has variable of integer? Can I access it from the methods called math is easy? That's my question. Code block impact the scope of a variable declaration. Variable scope refers to variable's feasibility to the other in of your application. Variable scope is basically the same way as variable feasibility. Let me make a note about this. To the other code in your application, a colloquially scope variable is only accessible inside of the code block in which is defined. If you attempt to access the variable outside of the code block, you will get a compiler error. The remainder of this unit explores the relationship between code blocks and variable scope. Variable scope, okay. Okay, prepare your coding environment. This module includes hand-on activities. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Why this passage, this step-by-step or instruction is repeated every module. Okay, create a variable inside of code block. You will begin by looking at the case when a variable is initialized inside a code block. Okay, let's just open the Visual Studio Code first. Here. This was yesterday. When a variable is initialized inside the code block. Ensure that you have Visual Studio Code open and program.cs display in the editor panel. Program.cs will be empty. If it isn't, select and delete all code lines. Okay, type the following code into the Visual Studio Code editor. Copy. So here, let me examine first. Let me guess first before I execute this into terminal. So the first one, the first line is declaring of a variable called flag, declaring a boolean, a flag, and has a value of true. Okay, so flag is true, so here must be true. If true, then this one should be executed. Then on the third line here, we declare more variable, which is called value as integer, which have value of 10. And then down here, we got the console.writeLine to print out the value. So value, since this statement is true, and we got the variable of value is equal to 10 or is assigned to 10, then we can just replace this 10. So the output should be inside the code block. Okay, 10. This should be work. Inside the code block, 10, yes. Okay, I think pretty straightforward here, yeah. Attempt to access a variable outside the code block in which is declared. In the Visual Studio Code editor, create a new line below the if statement code block. On the blank code line you created, add the following line of code. Okay, create a new code line below the if statement code block. So below the if statement, this one is the if statement code block. So down here. Okay. Verify that you update the code block. Yeah, looks like this following. Okay. There's be a problem here. The name value doesn't exist in the current context. Value here doesn't exist. Why? What is the reason? Even though we have already declared the value here, the value is 10. Okay, this must be work, but this one should not be work because it's about variable scoping theory, where if you declare an integer inside of this code block, that means it only works for anything that inside of this code block. Anything outside of this code block, like this and this, will not work because the integer here, the variable, is declared locally and not for globally. Unless you want to do like this. There you go, and then the variable here should be global, but if you put here, it should be local. This is global, this is local. Hopefully you understand what I mean. Can we actually .NET run? Hopefully it's error. Yes. Program CS 746. The name value doesn't exist in the current context. Yes, of course, the value doesn't exist. Okay. The error is generated because a variable that's declared inside code block is only accessible, can only be seen within that code block. Since a variable cannot be accessed outside the code block in which is declared, value cannot access from line 7 of your code. Wait. Variable that's declared inside of the code block here. Okay, within the code block. Since a variable cannot be accessed outside the code block in which is declared, value cannot be accessed from line 7 of your code. This value cannot be accessed because this is still inside of the code block. A variable that's declared in a method code block is referred to as a local variable. What about a variable that's declared in an if statement code block? Is it, should I call it as a local variable as well? Or a local variable is just apply for method code? I still have no clue about this. You may see the term local variable used when reviewing articles that discuss variable scope. Okay. I don't know, can we consider this variable as a local variable, even though if statement is not a method? But what should be the name? Move the variable declaration above the code block. Now, probably we can move this up like this. Let me just copy. There you go. Okay, so we got value declaration here. Value is already declared. as integer, but still not initialized to 10 in here in the upper one, but value is assigned to 10 in the bottom one. So this line should be work, but here, up here, the lines should be an error. Let's see. Use of unassigned local variable value. Yes, we know that this code block is local, is inside of these if statements. Then this guy will check the upper one, since there is no variable inside of the if statement. Then this variable will check any previous lines of code. If there is any value that already, does the value already has been assigned to any value like this? If you put this value here, then it should be work for both of them, inside or outside, because you put in here with semicolon, because you put in the second line, because we know that how the compiler works. The compiler work from up. The first one, up is more priority, and then the second one, third line, fourth line, then go to this if statements, then the final one, the final instruction should be this. That's how the compiler work. So yeah, since we know that value is just declared, is just initialized at the nin line of code, which is 10, then it will only work for this line of code, but not for this. Okay, take a minute to review the updates. Notice that value is now declared but not initialized outside the if scale. Okay. Notice that the value is now declared but not initialized outside the if code block. Notice that you still get a compilation error. This time, when you attempt to run the application, you get the following compilation error. Yeah, it's declare is about data type. Initialize means the value, or probably initialize is just the same as assign. Yeah, probably. So here will be the output. Let's check. Yes, like I have explained it before, there's no value here. I mean, this variable name is much more confusion, because value should be have value. The error is associated with line 6. Yeah, here inside the code block, because value is uninitialized. If the code line value is equal to 10 was located above the if statement code block, the application will compile correctly and everything will be fine. However, since value hasn't been initialized, it cannot be accessed inside the code block, because this value that assigned to 10 is located below the if statement, and we know the compiler work from up to down step by step, one by one, read the instruction and execute it with the in order, yeah, and never miss any single information, any single problem or statements. Therefore, this doesn't work. This doesn't read by compiler because value has no value. Value has value after it reads the nin line. That's how it works. This code addresses the unassigned local variable. Unassigned local variable compilation error by initial value as part of your variable declaration. Let's test this. This one should be work because we already moved the value up here. I mean, we are not moving it, we are just copy and pasting it here, but with different actual value. 10 for down here and 0 for up here. So this statement inside of the code block of each statement will get a value of 0, and down here we'll get a value of 10, since value is just got assigned to 10 on the nin line. That's it. What is that? Alright, inside the code block, yes, as it expected. Okay, examine the compiler interpretation of your code. To avoid runtime errors, the C# compilers analyze your code in the Visual Studio Code editor and during the build process. However, the compiler may not always interpret your code in the same way that you do. Consider the following two code samples that appear to serve the same purpose. Here, we got two examples here, code sample 1 and code sample 2. What we're gonna do is we examine if the compiler may not always interpret your code the same way what you do. So let's examine this the sample one first. Okay, the first one, this one is code sample 1, and I guess we can wait later. Let's examine the sample first, sample 1 first. So okay, integer value, okay, value is equal to 10, and then this one should be work, but this should be an error because value is not assigned to any value. Value is only assigned to 10 inside of the if statements, but not from outside. So this value cannot be accessed from here, from the outside. That's the sample 1, and I guess we can check the sample 2 here if it works, or it's just the same result like before, like the sample 1. Wait, value, okay, immediately put through. Value is already declared. Value is equal to 10. I think it is one. Wait, why this one is work? This is something different that I have learned. I mean, look at this. Value is assigned to 10 inside of this if statement, inside here. But how can the 10 here, how can this value can be accessed from outside here? How? I mean, it looks similar to code sample 1, where the value cannot access value inside here to take the 10 values. But how about the code sample 2? It's possible. Let's check the first one. It should be error. Use of unassigned local variable value C here. So this one is pretty new for me. Wait, later. You may feel that these two samples will always produce the same result, but the C# compiler interprets these two code samples differently. For the first code sample, the compiler interprets flag as Boolean variable that could be assigned. So the problem here should be the flag and true, even though we know that flag is true. We know, yeah, that flag is true. And the bottom one is also true. So this one should be true and true. But the result of the output here is different. The sample 1 has a result of error, and the sample 2 is working fine, but both of them got a value of 10. For the first code sample, the compiler interprets flag as Boolean variable that could be assigned to a value of either true or false. The compiler concludes that if flag is false, value will not be initialized when the second console at right line is executed. I mean, the compiler concludes that if flag is false, value will not be initial when the second console.writeLine is executed. Okay, let's say this flag. That means this one should not be executed. Essentially, the compiler considers the following two mode execution paths to be possible. Like this, yeah. Value is equal to 10. So this is basically the illustration like this. This one is path when flag is true, and the bottom one flag when flag is false. As an error, since the compiler consider the second path possibility, for code sample 1, it generates an error message during the build process. In addition, the code editor in Visual Studio Code warns you of the issue by displaying a red squiggly line under the value below the code block. For the second code sample, the compiler concludes that the content of the if statement code block will always be executed. True is always true. The compiler doesn't generate a build error because it interprets the second code sample to have a single execution path as follows. The contents of is, let's check back why this one is error and why the second sample doesn't have an error. This should be the answer. If statement code block here will always be executed. Okay, because true is always true. The compiler doesn't generate a build error. Okay, doesn't generate build error because it interprets the second code sample to have a single execution path as follow. So I see, that's why. That's why, bro. That's why. So do you mean by if we put true here, that means the curly braces here will be useless. So there's no such thing as local variable here. So everything will be the same level as this because it's true statements, it's true conditional inside of the if statements. So this guy will be on the same level with down one. So okay, recap. Here are the few important things to remember about code blocks. When you declare a variable inside a code block, its visibility is local to that code block and that variable cannot be accessed outside of the code block. Local cannot be accessed outside of the code block. Okay. To ensure that a variable is visible both inside and outside of a code block, you must declare the variable prior to the code block, outside and above the code block. Don't forget outside and above, because there is outside and below the code block. If you put it below, that will not work unless you doing like iteration statements, then that's fine. Ensure that variables are initials before you code attempt to access them. Initialize. Yeah, ensure that variables are initialized before you code attempt to access them for all potential code execution path. Okay. Okay, check your knowledge. A developer writes some codes that includes an if statement code block. They initialize one integer variable to a value of 5 above of the code block. So let's say integer x equal to 5, but this one is outside. They initialize a second integer variable to a value 6 of the first line inside of the code block. So another value here, integer y, or x, y is equal to 6. The Boolean expression for the code block evaluates to true. So there is more about this. If so, this one is true. True if the first integer variable has value greater than Oh, see. The parameter for the code block evaluates to true if the first integer variable has a value greater than O. First value, where's the first value? If the first integer variable has value, okay. On the second line, inside the code block, they assign the sum of the two values to the first variable. On the first line, after the code block, they write code to display the value of the first integer. What is the result when the code statement used to display the first integer is executed? On the second line, which is here, yeah, they assign the sum of the two values to the first variable. Two values, okay. Sum of the two values to the first variable. On the first line after the code block, the first line after the code block, they write code to display the value of the first integer. Okay, basically just like print x, yeah. What is the result when the code statement used to display the first integer is the assign the sum if you put basically x is equal to x plus y probably. Okay, so the x here, let's say the first variable. Let's change this to first variable, and second variable. And we just need to print the first variable. First variable is initialized to 5 at the first place, and then executing this if statement because 5 is greater than O, and then another declaration. Second variable is equal to 6, yeah, is equal to 6. Because it's equal to 6, we can put it here. 6, first variable is 5. 5 plus 6 is equal 11. It's equal 11. Okay. But right now, we want to print out the first variable number. What should be the final number of first variable? Is it 5 or is it the sum of the two variables here, which is 11? It's 11. This is 5. So I guess it should be 5 because first variable here is declared locally and not globally. So let's say let's say this code block is entirely local, and outside of it is global. But we see here first variable is just can relate with here with this guy, so the print must be the same like before. Of course, no error is generated and the integer value is displayed. Okay, the value is really displayed in this, the sum of the first and second integer. No, the value is displayed. The value displayed in is the initialized value from above the code block. Yes. Wait, why am I incorrect? Correct, since the first integer is initialized above each statement, is still in scope after the code block. Okay, it's still in scope after the code block. Also, since both integers are in scope and initialized with the value inside of the code block, the addition of value execute correctly. Okay, so here, guess let we take a break first. All right, we are back. Okay, the second unit. Remove code block from if statements. Let's delete all of this code first. Software developers love it when they can write code that share the safe keystroke and visual space without sacrificing. I think I need to highlight this sentence because its relevance in the real world. Only apply the phrase less is more in the development process when it makes your code more readable and understandable. If a code blocks needs only one line of code, chance are you don't need to define a formal code blocks using curly braces. Although technically you don't even need to separate your code into multiple lines, combining statement on a single line can make your code hard to read. Here, removing the curly braces as described above is stylistic change that should not affect the functionality of your code. However, you should take steps to ensure that your changes do not negatively impact how readable the code is. You can evaluate the impact of removing the curly braces and white space, then revert back to the original code if you find that the change made your code less readable. Wait. This one is the key word, is the key of the sentence. Even though we can actually combine it together, uh, combine like multiple lines into just a single line of code. Here, for example, here is for example, sentence one, and then we got sentence two, sentence three. Like you want to combine it into a single word, single line of code, just like this. Yes, it might be work, but for its readability, it's poor. It's very bad to read. Especially you want to read it later on. Okay, removing the curly braces as described above is is stylistic change. It shouldn't affect the functionality of your code. It's just stylistic. The purpose is obviously for just readability. So the impact is just for our understanding, just for human, not for compiler. The impacts do not negatively impact for human. For compiler, that's considered as stylistic. Okay, we will gonna remove the curly braces and white space after this. Revert back to, and then we can compare which one is better for readability, and I don't think functionality will also work here. Here's an example of an if statement that use a code block. Copy this, paste. Let's test this. Okay, declare flag with the boolean data type. The value is true, then this must be true. Therefore, this statement will be executed. We'll print out flag is true. Yeah, we'll print true. Okay, verify that you see the following output. Yes, your code represent a good starting point, but you have a code block that includes a single line of code. In this case, and is define a code block necessary? Is defining or just making the curly braces is necessary? No, I think doesn't. Remove the curly braces. Yes, I did. The code above execute the code above executes a code block when flag is true. Since this code block contains a single code line, you have the option to remove the curly braces. Okay, update your code in the Visual Studio Code editor as follows. Removing the curly braces doesn't change the fact that console.writeLine here is the code block for the if statement. Basically, this guy is still considered as within the if statement's code block, but it's just invisible. Like there are actually curly braces here, but it's invisible. I mean, the compiler will look the same way. So it's for its functionality, whether you put the curly braces on it or without of it, it will be the same from the perspective of compiler. But the requirement, you have to remove the white space like this, and then I think it's only apply to single line of code. I don't think multiple lines will also work. Let's test it out. Oh, it does work as well. It does work as well, bro. What about this? Will it work? Okay, that's working fine. What about this? Okay, triple sentence in just a single line of code. It works as well. Yeah, as I said, it works for its functionality, but for human readability, it's very bad. Especially if you want to recheck again this later on, maybe in the future, you want to review your code, or probably other developer want to read your code, or just the interviewer want to examine your code. This will be a bad score for readability. Of course, obviously. So what if I don't remove the white space here? It does work as well. It does work. However, there's too fewer lines of code. Most importantly, with the code line below the if indented, your code is still easily readable. Okay, basically there's too fewer line of code. From here, it's trimmed out to 3 lines only from 5 lines. That's good idea for readability purpose. I think I can apply this for my project. Okay, examine the readability of single line form if statements. Right. Okay, let's now test this. What if we put the console.writeLine here? Is it still working? Will it still work? It does work. It does work. What about this? Using the triple sentence in just one line of code. Basically, you can this is new to me. You can actually put all of the statements of each statement inside of here. I see there. Notice that the output is still the same. Take a minute to consider code readability. Very bad. Imagine the previous two code sample nest within a larger section of code. Combining code statement like you did in the step 4. Where is the step 4? Could make it harder to read. When implementing, where is step 4? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. What is step 4? Where's the step 4? Or this one is step 4. Would make it harder to read. When implementing an if statement that includes a single statement code block, Microsoft recommends that you consider this convention. So this is what Microsoft do. Probably if you want to apply for any job, use this as your standard for better readability and basically for easy to read for any people, any developers that want to read your code. Use this as your standard. Never use single line form. For example, if flag console.readline, even though we know this is possible, this will work on the compiler. For its functionality, it works fine, but for human readability, it's bad. The score for human is bad. The score for compiler is good. Yeah, okay, using braces is always accepted and required if any block of an if, else if, and else compound statement use braces. Okay, compound statement use braces, or if a single statement's body spans multiple lines, please use braces, curly braces. If there is else if or else, and then if there are multiple lines, you want to use braces. I mean, this braces is recommended you to use. Okay, braces may be omitted only if the body of every block associated with an if, else compound statement is placed on a single line. May be omitted. What is omit? Leave out. Can be leave out only. I mean, you can just use the braces only if the body of every block associated with an if, else compound statement is placed on a single line. Okay, this is the exception. So this is the example. To examine the readability impact for larger if, else construct, update your code as follow. I think this one is the only one that is allowed by Microsoft. You can make it like this. If the statement is just has single line of code, not multiple lines. If there are more multiple lines, then you want to use the curly braces. But if it's like this, all of them are a single line, then you can make it or just combine it with the statement. I mean the statement with the if. This will be combined with else if, and here combine it to else. So yeah, this will be work. Name Steve. Steve is not equal to Bob. Okay, Steve. Therefore, this one will be executed. Found Steve. .NET run. Found Steve. Okay. The code runs, but this line of code are dense and hard to read. You may want to reformat the code to include a line break after the if, else if, and else statement. Okay, so another suggestion here. The line of code is hard. Yes, I see this one is hard. You want to make it like this. So this is the solution for readability. You want to make it like this. Also use white space to gap between declaration or field with the process of the code. So yeah, I can read it easily to identify where is the variable that is declared or initialized, and where is the process, where is the selection statements, and where is the iteration statements, or where is the methods. I have to separate it by a cap of white space, and then don't forget to use a meaningful variable like this, or you might want to make it like this. This one will it's considered as a bad variable because you don't know what is x. Probably you know what is x purpose right now, but later on you will be confused because you often do forget, especially if you are a developer that type like hundreds, thousands of code every day, and obviously this will be a problem for you. So yeah, variable naming as a standard or convention is important for any developer. Notice how much easier it is to read the second code sample. Yes, this is much easier. Why this is easier? Because a tab here. Because all of the console write line has the same position, which is after the tab here is aligned. All of them is the same line on the same line, but here, of course, is harder to read. First, is not on the same alignment. Is not aligned with the bottom one also, as well as this one. So that's make it hard. That's why it make it hard. Okay. Braces. Yeah. So we already apply this. Never use single line form like this. Okay. We just update this code into this. So this one is much better version and easily to read. And then we already applied to this one using braces always accepted. I mean, we applied this. Braces may be omitted only if the body of every block associated with an if, else if, and else is placed on single line, just like this. All of them are on the single line. Therefore, we can cut out the curly braces. I mean, we don't use the curly braces for readability. Here, okay, recap. Here are a few important things to remember about if statement, code block, and readability. If you realize you have only one line of code listed within the code block of an if, else statement, Okay, you can remove the curly brace on the code block and white space. Microsoft recommends that curly braces be used consistently for all the code blocks of an if else statements, either present or removed consistently. Yeah, Microsoft recommends that curly braces use consistently. Yeah. This one is just better for a single line of code. Microsoft here is recommend uh, be consistent at putting curly braces. If you put curly braces at the first place, then you have to put the entire of any if statement or else statement or any selection statement, iteration statement using curly braces and apply it for all of them. Just be consistent. If you don't use it, don't use it. If you use it, use it. Because if you not consistent, it will make the code harder to read. Only remove the curly braces of a code when it makes the code more readable. It's always acceptable to include curly braces. But I probably prefer using the curly braces, even if even it is one line of code. I don't care. Yeah. But probably in some case I will cut out the curly braces and use the same method like this. Only remove the line feed if it makes the code more readable. Wait, I haven't tried. If I don't remove the white space, will it work? Yes, it does work. How about this one? Will it work as well? It does work. Only remove the line feed if it's make the code more readable. Microsoft suggests that your code will be more readable when each statement is placed on its own code line. What does it means? Each statement, okay, placed on its own code line. This is code line. Okay, I got it. Let's just go to the challenge activity using the variable scope, and okay, probably we're gonna try to remove the curly braces inside of the if statement. Code challenge, variable scope challenge. In this challenge, you will use what you have learned about code blocks and variable scope to fix the purely written code sample provided. There are many improvements that you can make. Good luck. So the code challenge is update problematic code in the code editor. This is the problematic one. Ensure that you have an empty program.js. Okay. Type the following code into the Visual Studio Code editor. I'm gonna type it all like this. Very problematic for problems. Review the intended output. When you have completed the required code edits, your application should produce the following output. It should have an output like this. Complete the code updates required so that the existing console.writeline statement produce the desired output. Variable scope may need to be adjusted. Optimize your code for readability depending on the amount of white space that you include and some other factor. You should have around 17 lines of code. So our target, our goal is make this multiple lines, make this code much more efficient, which the target is 17 lines, and then fix the problems. Okay, and then what else? And then make the output like the expected one here. Okay, so basically those are our challenge. Let's settle out this. Okay, we got number. Number is declared with integer data type. Okay, six integer, 6 elements here. Okay, 6 elements from 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 40. Okay, for each integer number in numbers. Okay, starting from left to right. Okay, integer total. So total is declared inside of the for each statement, which total is locally declare, locally declare. So it should be impossible to be accessed outside of the scope. The only work that we can access the total is just the scope. But if you want to access it from outside like this doesn't work. Let's examine this one. Total plus equal number. Total equal, I mean this total is just the same like total equal total plus number, but this seems to have a problem because total is still not assigned to any numbers, to any value. So that's why this total doesn't exist in current context. Yes, like I said before. Yes, like I said before, because it's out of boundaries. It's outside of this scope. Okay, that's the first one. Use of unassigned variable total. It's question. This guy is questioning like why total equal total plus number, like total it hasn't been assigned to any numbers, so the result will be questionable. It's impossible to do this. Okay, the name found doesn't exist in the current context. Okay, bool found true. Also found, if found hasn't been declared any for any data type. I mean found is declared here inside of this mini scope. Let's say I will just say this is mini scope because this one is middle scope, this one is outside scope. So yeah, outside scope, middle scope, and then let's say mini scope for this one. Okay, so basically here boolean value found is equal to true. What we have to do is we have to move this out from this mini scope to outside here, so that here this variable of found can have access to the second line, which is true. So found will access this true. So if true, then this one will be executed. So yeah, set contains 42. Console.write line total, and this one is also not still doesn't have access to here. So what I'm gonna to do is total. Just put this outside, just move like we did before. Move this integer total outside here and above of the for each loop, and then there you go. Use of unassigned local variable total. Okay, but total still hasn't assigned to any numbers. Okay, integer total. This will iterate through the numbers here from left to right. Okay. Total plus equal number. Number is equal to 42. Okay. Let's manually count this to make sure if the total is 180. Probably will be okay. Probably will be added to here. Total plus number. If number and then 37 and then 53. Okay, 76. We got 108. Okay, we got that. So basically, let me examine first. Okay, so if number is equal to 42, may need to be adjusted variable scope. Total plus number. This is a kind of iteration. Okay, if found, if number is equal to 42, then set contains boolean found is true. Oh, this one, yeah. Found, okay. It should be like this. Found is true. Boolean found, and then found is equal to true. We can actually rip out this white space and curly braces, just like this. Total still not assigned to anything. Probably we have to assign it to any numbers like 0, then it will be work. Yes, set contents is 42 and total is 108. Wait, let me review it first. Okay, optimize your code. Okay, 17 lines. I can make it smaller than this, but I think readability is much more important here. So yeah, basically 17 lines here. It will be safe. Okay, let's see. Let's check this out. Let's review the code here. Okay, I'm correct about the first line, and then integer total is set to 0, where previously it doesn't set to any numbers. Boolean value is equal to false. Found. Okay. The code is merely one possible solution because you may have added line fits in different spots and you may have formatted the code differently. The biggest change to the problem of the code includes moving the declaration of the total and found variables outside of the for each statements. Yes, I did it already. Initializing both the total and found variable with sensible default values. Okay, this is true. If found is false. If false, then this one should not be executed. Oh, I see there. You can actually put like that. No matter how you formatted the code, when you're writing code, you should see the following output. With removing the code block curly braces from the if statement like this, it's fine, yeah. Just to setting found to true. Okay, I got it. If you were successful, congratulations. Continue on the knowledge check in the next unit. So let me examine first this. For its integer number, there's no gap between total plus equal number and the if statement. But why boolean? Oh, this is just default, yeah, as it says. It doesn't matter. You can put this as a true. You can put this value like 100 to 1000. It doesn't matter because we will change it later on in the bottom one here in the process of code. Like it will change the value in here. So total plus equal number. Total sum until each of them is summed up. Then the result will be the total of numbers in this array. And then continue to the if statement. Number is if number is equal to 42, I mean if it's on the iteration 6, yeah, this one is iteration 6, then found equal to true. I mean this if statement is trying to check is there any numbers that equal to 42? Is there any 42 number here? If it yes, then found is equal to true, then we can access it in here in the another if statement, but outside of the for each statements. So if it yes, then it will print out set contains 42, and then the final one should be the total of numbers for each of elements here inside of this array. So there is it. There it is. Loaded shell. Okay, which of the following statement is true about showing or removing the curly braces for code blocks associated with an if statement? Okay, the correct statement about showing or removing curly braces from code block that associated with an if statements. Okay, let's check about this first. The curly braces cannot be removed from the code block for else if and else statements. Basically the curly braces, it can be removed. It's possible, but I mean it's possible for its functionality, but for readability it doesn't recommended by Microsoft. So this one is false. This one is incorrect because you can remove the curly braces. Okay, let's check another one here. If the curly braces are removed from the code block of an if else statements, the white space must also be removed. I just checked it before. It's possible that without removing the white space, it still works like this. It doesn't matter if you fill more the white space there, it still works. What about this one? It looks very bad, bro. This is kind of very bad. Purely written code. You should not do like this. And this instead just use the recommended one by Microsoft. That will be our standard in writing the C# code. Okay, so this one should be correct because other option is already incorrect. Always choose a style that improves readability. So basically, these are about the style. The purpose is for human readability. Just choose one of them. There's two options. Use the curly braces consistently or don't use it consistently. Just that will be our option. Okay, the second, developer write some code that includes an if statement code block. Okay, they initialize first integer variable to value. Okay, let's check this out. Or just make a new text file here. Let's say C#. A developer write some code that includes an if statement code block. Okay, let's say if statement. They initialize a first integer variable to a value of 1 above outside of the code block. they initialize a first integer variable to a value of one above of one, or the value is one above or just outside of the code block. So outside here, split integer with the value of one. Let's say first integer. This is the first integer. The Boolean expression for the if statement code block evaluates to true. Okay, this one is true. If the first integer variable has value greater than 0, or if the first integer variable has a value greater than 0, then it must be true. The first code line inside of code block is used to initialize a second integer. That means it should be here. The value. Okay, the value of the second integer is 8, but it's declared inside of the if statements. The first code line after the code block is used to display the value. Is to display the value of the first integer variable. What is the result when the code is executed? Oh, I missed this one. Used to assign the sum of two integer values to the first variable. Okay, so basically we got the second integer here and set to 8 like this, and then the second line we got sum. This is used to assign the sum of the integer values to the first variable using the first variable like this, plus sum, plus equal second integer, yes, and it wants me to display the value of the first integer. So console.writeLine, display the integer, first integer. Will it work or no? So 1. So since this if statement is true, therefore we will execute this, but the problem here is second integer is declared inside of the code block, and then continue of the calculation between first integer, where it's declared outside, and the second integer, which declared inside. So outside declaration plus equal inside declaration. Will it works actually? Let me see. I think it does work because first integer, I think it does work because first integer, this is valid because it's done after the declaration, and this is on the same level with this, and also right after this code. So that means let's say this is 8, first integer is 1, 1 plus 8 is equal 9. Then since the first integer is already set to 9, and then we can print 9, okay, in the final one. So basically second integer is ignored. I mean, it cannot be accessed outside, but first integer, it still can be accessed outside. But since first integer has some relationship inside of the if statements, and it already set to 9 with ignoring the second integer, I mean the first integer is already set to 9, then it doesn't matter, the first integer print will print out 9 exactly. So hopefully that will work. Yes, it does work. No error is generated and the integer value is 9. Okay. A developer writes some code that includes an if statement code block. They initialize a first integer variable to a value of 5. Okay, first integer is 5. Outside. Okay, 5 outside. The Boolean expression for if statement code block evaluates to true if the first integer variable has a value greater than, almost similar like this. The first code line inside of the code block is used to initialize second integer variable to a value of 6. The first code line after the code block is used to add the second integer value. Okay, add the second integer value to the value of the first integer. Now the calculation of sum is happen outside here. The second code line after the code block is used to display the value of the first integer. What is the result when they run the code? So let me guess first. Let's say this is 5. This is 5, 0. Okay. Second integer is 6. Okay, let me guess first. Okay, this one will be true because 5 is greater than 5. I mean 5 is greater than 0. And then we want to execute this. Integer second integer is equal to 6. Okay, this is obviously cannot be accessed. Second integer outside here doesn't have access here because second integer here is declared inside. Therefore, we cannot access out from outside. Therefore, first integer will be not valid. And finally, it will print out an error. An error is generated by the code line used to display the integer value. A build error is generated by the code line used to sum the two integers. This is obviously wrong. What about this? A line used to sum the two integers. I think this one. An error is generated by the code line. No, display will not have an error, but instead the sum calculation thing is the cause of an error. So because second integer is still not assigned to any numbers, therefore this one should be the correct one. Let's check your answer. All right. Okay, all of them is correct. Let's go to the summary. Your goal was to understand how code blocks impact access to variable and the action required to ensure that variables are appropriately scoped, okay, initialized, and accessible when needed within an applications. So basically, code block impact access to variable and the action, yeah. You explore the impact of declaring variable inside and outside of the boundaries of code block. You also examine the impact that variable initialization can have on accessibility, as well as how removing unnecessary code block can affect code readability. Code that use improperly scope or initialize variable will produce runtime error. Your ability to scope and initialize variable correctly will ensure a better user experience with your application. So basically, this is much more important thing that we have to do from scope, and then the initializing accessible so that it will not produce runtime errors. Like we can just remove the curly braces for readability purpose, but you require to be consistent. It's recommended by Microsoft that you better put the curly braces on, whether it's single line of code or multiple lines of code. Microsoft suggests put curly braces because that will be easier to read. I mean, you can see the scope already with just seeing the curly braces like the like here. This is for the example. Oh, this one is a mini scope, and this one is the largest scope, like that. So yeah, let's complete the module. I have earned the achievement for the module 2 of the part 3. Then we can just finish the pre-code 1. Okay, which of the following statement is true about showing or removing the curly braces? We have done this. Yes, check your answer. Okay, I think I'm done for today. Hopefully this video or my progression videos helpful to you and motivates you all. Basically, we are just progressing together towards better learning, better goal, and hopefully can land your first job. So that's for today. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, until next day, bye bye.